Hello, 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 and welcome to the Babe Bulletin podcast, where we talk self-love, empowerment, boudoir, and anything else that makes us feel like a total babe. I have a very special guest in the studio, Melissa Kultgen. Yes?
Kultgen.
I even practiced. And we're talking about something that you and I have actually discussed before. You were nice enough to invite me on an Instagram live for you. Yes, so I'm happy we're in my studio now and getting to talk. We're chatting about melanoma today and skin cancer because it's something that I don't think a lot of people think about, especially going into the summer. I mean, we should be thinking about it all of the time, but the weather's getting warmer. We're showing more skin. We're going to be exposed to the sun a lot more. And I don't think skin cancer is on anybody's radar, really.
It wasn't on mine.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being here and chatting with me. Could you share, I guess, your experience with melanoma and tell us kind of what you had to go through and all of that?
Yeah, so I'm Melissa Kultgen. I am originally from Port Washington, where we are, which we're right on the lake. It's, we have a lot of summer festivals and activities. And like you said, being outside is kind of the vibe. And I grew up in tan culture where, getting your tan lines for the first time in the summer was kind of like your badge of honor. You had a good time. And being fair-skinned, I unfortunately was bullied a lot growing up. I was on the cheer team, and I remember like every Friday night, I would hear comments from the stands like, "Look at her legs. She's so pale," and "Ew, she's so gross." And so I desperately wanted to fit in, and I wanted to feel pretty. And so I sat out at the beach. I sat out on my patio to try to get that tan. But being fair-skinned, I burned to a crisp. And years later, I was diagnosed with melanoma, which if you have 5 blistering sunburns at any point in your life, you're more than double likely to develop skin cancer sometime in your life. And yeah, it came back and got me.
Oh, man. So you get this diagnosis. Where is your head at? What are you thinking?
I was completely shocked. So I have freckles and moles all over my body, right? And I had a freckle above my lip that I wasn't too crazy about. Like, why'd you have to pop up there? But I'm like, it's what I have to deal with. And when I was pregnant in 2017, it began to grow. It wasn't just a freckle anymore. It was a massive lump that hung over my lip. And it hurt, it cracked, it bled. I went to my primary care doctor, and she's like, "Oh, just put Vaseline on it. It's just dry." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." That didn't help. My OBGYN was like, "Oh, you're pregnant. Your body's doing crazy things. It'll probably disappear once you have the baby." I'm like, "Oh, okay." But it just kept getting worse. And I'm like, what can I do? And they said, "Well, if it bothers you, we can cut it off. Just a cosmetic procedure, no big deal. Nothing to worry about." I'm like, okay. It does bother me. Take it off, please. Because it was just massive. I had trouble eating and just all the things. And so I had my daughter in January 2018. 2 weeks later, I had it removed, the lump. And the surgeon was like, "Oh, I'll see you back in a week to get the stitches out. No big deal. I'll just send in the mass for a biopsy just for the heck of it."
Just for funsies.
Just for the fun. Nothing to worry about. I'm like, okay. So a week passed, and I felt really great. I felt like that weird thing is gone finally. I feel human again, because it was the first thing people saw. So I was so self-conscious about that. And I was so good to have it gone, and it's healing so nicely. And I go in for my post-op with my 3-week-old daughter at the time because nobody was available to watch her. And he took out my stitches and he said, "They healed beautifully. You're looking great." And then all of a sudden he got really quiet and said, I'm sorry, hun, you have cancer.
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, I already called the oncologist. He's going to call you. You're going to be okay. But yeah.
Oh my God, I can't imagine how terrifying that is. So your newborn is with you, and then you hear the words, those 3 words, like, you have cancer, which I think every single person dreads.
At that time, my mom was in the hospital battling cancer, and my uncle passed away the day before.
Oh my gosh.
And I've lost too many friends and family to cancer, so those words are very heavily loaded. And so I remember just sitting there, and I was in shock, and I had to pick up my daughter and walk out of the clinic shaking, and it's pouring rain. And I could tell I was in shock because I couldn't latch her car seat into the car. And I called my dad, and I'm like, I need you to meet me by Mom. And he knew I had a checkup that day, so he could tell, like, something was not right. And then, going from there, I met with oncology. I literally got to the hospital to see my mom. I met my dad in the waiting room to catch him up before we told my mom. And as I'm standing in the waiting room, oncology called, which I was like, they're calling this quickly. Like, it's not good.
Yeah.
Because you know how doctors' appointments are.
Yeah, right.
It's so hard to, like, get a hold of people.
Yeah.
So
normally no news is the good news. You're like, well, they haven't called me in 3 weeks. I must be fine. But
right. For them to call within minutes of leaving the other clinic, I was just, it's not good. And so, I went for my first consult the next day. They decided to do more surgeries. I had scans and tests. In March of 2018, I ended up having a wide local, well, first they did a biopsy to make sure that it didn't spread, and thankfully it didn't. But then the following day, so 2 surgery days back to back, not recommended. They did a wide local excision on my upper lip, took about 1 inch of my upper lip, because with melanoma, you want to make sure you have a clean margin. So even though it didn't spread throughout my body, they wanted to make sure there was no lingering cells around. So I lost about 1 inch of my lip, which was going to take a lot. And my lips were going to be uneven. So the surgeon's like, in order to make them somewhat symmetrical, we can do a cross flap. So they took part of my bottom lip and transplanted it up here. So I have a little triangle, and I look like I permanently got punched in the face.
But she's still gorgeous, you guys. She's so pretty.
And for that to heal, I had to have my mouth sewn shut for 4 weeks.
Oh my God.
So that the transplant could settle. So being postpartum, breastfeeding, I'm on a liquid diet. I'm like trying to figure out, like, am I gonna die?
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah, I cannot even imagine the mental strain, the physical strain. Like, your whole body and your brain's going through it at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Exhaustion doesn't even feel like enough of a word.
Right. And like, even the doctors at the time were like, we don't even know to like how to diagnose your depression, because you're postpartum, you're going through cancer, you're grieving your family going through cancer. Like, you're messed up.
Yeah.
Basically.
All the things.
All the things.
Okay, so you had multiple surgeries. Then chemo, radiation, was that an option for you? Or did you not need it?
Had immunotherapy.
Okay.
Which is a little bit different from chemo. Immunotherapy's purpose is to just kind of like reboot your system, and like, so it doesn't attack your system as heavily as chemo does. So I didn't lose my hair or like get too sick from the treatment. Some people do from the drug that I had. But thankfully, like, I was okay with side effects. So I healed from the cross flap 4 weeks, a couple of weeks later, so May 2018, I started immunotherapy and immediately had to stop breastfeeding my daughter because once that drug entered my system, my milk was toxic, which that caused a whole bunch of postpartum and trauma. So, and originally my treatment was once every 2 weeks, but thanks to research at the time, they found it was safe to get it once a month. So I had it once a month from then on until April 2019. And then July 2019, I had my final reconstruction where so with the transplant and with gravity, how gravity works, it just kept hanging and it wasn't soft. It was just like, it still felt like a lump in my lip. So July 2019, he made a final attempt to soften it and raise it up a little. And at that point, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm sick of having these reconstructions. I'm sick of going through the trauma. Like, it is what it is. I definitely was not happy with how it turned out. And it took me probably another year before I was really accepting that this is how my lip now looked. And I still have certain days that, or like certain angles, that I'm like, oh, I don't like how that looks. But now, thankfully, I've gotten to the point where, you know, it's kind of weird to say, but it's kind of like a bittersweet blessing that I had my melanoma on my lip and that I had to go through all of that, because if it would have happened anywhere else on my body, the world wouldn't know. And I probably would have spiraled further into depression. I probably would have shut myself out. But with being on my lip, people are always asking, like, what happened? Did you get punched? I'm like, well, no, I had skin cancer. And then they're like, wait, what? You got skin cancer on your lips? And then that started opening up conversations. So then it's like, well, this is a good talking point. And like, if I'm kind of forced to talk about it, might as well do it for a good reason. So last like 3 years or so, like I've really dived into the advocacy space. I share on my Instagram about my journey, and you know, even like it wasn't like I didn't intend for my Instagram to like reach the world. It started out more of like me just publicly journaling, and I thought that if even just one person felt less alone than I did when I was diagnosed and going through all the mess, then it would be worth it. And I've connected with so many incredible people who have such similar heartbreaking stories, but we've just formed the best connections and just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you really are such an advocate for this. And I will admit that when I started following you on Instagram, I did not know hardly anything about skin cancer, not really on my radar that much. Mm-hmm. And I've learned a ton from you. I mean, you even recently sent me the link on how to kind of, not diagnose, that's not the right word, but like, oh, something might be up with that.
Yeah.
Like mole on your body.
Yeah.
And I have actually heard, when I started boudoir photography, I knew a photographer who caught a weird mole on someone's butt and said, I think you should maybe just go to the doctor and have this looked at. It doesn't look even.
Right.
And they did, and they had skin cancer.
Like one of my friends, she went for a facial and they caught it.
Right? Like it's just not something that you're really looking for. I think as women, we're taught like, you know, check your boobs, like go in for your OBGYN appointments, check for that. But how often are we looking at our skin? Right. Even though it's the largest organ on our body, right? How often are we actually checking it? And I appreciate you sharing everything that you went through, because I think the other issue is that when we hear, oh, skin cancer, okay, you had a weird mole, you got it cut off, you move on with your life. Yeah. So, and that is not the case for many people. Maybe if you're quote unquote lucky, that's the situation you're in. Mm-hmm. But that 4 weeks with your mouth
Yeah. And
so shut. That's not a joke. Like,
is
that's
one
serious.
of the most aggressive metastasis. It can spread to your other organs. I've had friends who have had it spread to their brains, their lungs, and also to know for the ladies, which is scary to know after the fact, melanoma is one of the cancers that can spread to the fetus.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, we caught it. I was 2C diagnosed, the stage 2C, which was like right on the brink of passing to my lymph nodes. So if it would have passed, my daughter could have been born with melanoma.
I didn't know that. See, I'm learning.
And I didn't know that until like years later. And I'm like, wait, what? And so I'm like so grateful that my daughter was born healthy. And, you know, she came 2 weeks early, thank God, because I can't even imagine what would have happened. Like if I was still caring for her and I heard those words, so she's healthy and I'm healthy now.
Good. Yes. But like, this is no joke. This is not there. This is not quote unquote easy cancer.
No,
there's nothing simple about this. It's hard. It's grueling. It's terrifying. And obviously we need to, as like you said, we're on Port Washington with a lot of time on the lake, a lot of time at the beach. My producer and husband got sunburned on Memorial Day and we weren't even outside very much, right? It was cooler weather. So you don't think, I got to put sunscreen even on a cloudy day. Yes. And I guess that's what I want to talk about next is how to care for our skin. Not saying every form of skin cancer is preventable, but there are some things we can do. So what would you recommend as folks head into summer?
Yeah, it's all about building healthy habits, making sun care just as regular as brushing your teeth or drinking water. So you want to wear a broad spectrum SPF of at least 30 SPF or higher. And you want to apply that 10 minutes before going outside so that the sunscreen has time to set in. And like, I have to have this conversation with my daughter. And she's like, oh, I'll put it on when we get to the park. I'm like, no, by the time we get to the park, we need it to be ready. We need it to be activated on your skin. So 10 minutes before, broad spectrum SPF 30 or higher. There's so many different great sunscreens out there. If you say that you don't like the feel of sunscreen, like I challenge you, there's one out there that will feel good on your skin. Wear protective clothing. So people don't realize this, but clothing does not protect your skin equally. So those summer clothes that are light and flowy and loose don't do anything for your skin. You want the tighter weave. You want darker colors. So a black t-shirt is better than a white t-shirt. There's also amazing UPF clothing out there. So many different companies have super cute clothes out there now that UPF is like built-in sun protection. So if you know you're a person that's outside for long periods of time, but sometimes forget to reapply, UPF clothing is a great option. Hats with a wide brim, like baseball caps, don't cover anything. You want a wide brim. You want sunglasses that are UV protective. Not all sunglasses are UV protective, so be watchful of that. You also want to avoid the peak hours of UV index. Those are the hours from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., which is hard in summer when we have festivals and all the fun things. But that just means you got to be extra careful with the other, the clothing, the sunscreen.
The sunscreen, yeah.
And seek shade as much as possible. Sit under the tree, find a canopy.
Yeah. That's all so good. Yeah. I mean, I put on a sunscreen on my face every single day. We just got a new one out for my husband, who again burns a lot easier than me. So now he's going to be wearing it. We bring a beach umbrella to the beach.
Yes.
So we have shade no matter what time of day it is. We can sit in shade. And we were actually just talking about purchasing like swim shirts as well.
Yeah.
So there are lots of options out there. We just have to be a little more aware of them. And I love the analogy of like, work it into your routine, just like brushing your teeth. You brush your teeth, you put on your sunscreen. Boom.
And another thing about sunscreen. So we have makeup with SPF, and we have tinted sunscreen. Makeup with SPF, be cautious of that, because although great, the amount of makeup you would need to put on to get the right dosage of SPF, nobody wants that look. It's not cute. Like, it's like medieval queen inch of stuff on your face. Nobody wants that.
Maybe only at the Renaissance Fair, folks.
But tinted SPFs have come so far that they don't make your skin orange. Like, a lot of them, the tint is just so that it like covers the zinc. Because people, a lot of their ick about sunscreen is like the white caps. So the tinted sunscreens are really good at avoiding that, which if you want like recommendations, you can always reach out to me. Like, I know a few that are super great. But like I said, like, just keep trying different ones. Even at your dermatology appointments, you can ask for sunscreen samples. The derms get samples. So don't be afraid to ask your derm for sunscreen samples or like suggestions for like UPF clothing.
Oh, that's a really good tip.
Yes.
So I kind of want to circle back to, you know, you've had you're going through cancer and you're going through these surgeries. Something that doesn't get brought up in body image spaces very often, or like body love spaces, is like, oh, just love your body, you know, be happy or neutral about how you look, etc., etc. But when your body is kind of actively trying to kill you, it's hard to justify the two. Be like, my body is so cool, I'm so happy I have it. Also, it is trying to harm me. What was your body image experience like? How did you feel in relation to the skin you were in when it's actively working against you? What was that like? Yeah, what was that like?
It was terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And just the fact that my melanoma was on my lip and all of the reconstructions and the healing process, like, it took so much of my sense of femininity. Like, we think about how our breasts impact like our view as a woman, and like, I felt so judged by everybody, and I hated how everything looked. And then too, I struggled for a long time just going back outside. Like, I went through a period of time where I was afraid of the sun, because I knew for me that my UV exposure was probably the cause of my cancer. So I was absolutely terrified to go back outside. Like, I would cover up every part I could and try to avoid the sun as much as I could, because not only did I not want to be seen by people, but like, I was so afraid that like, oh my gosh, it touched this spot and now I'm going to have another melanoma.
Yeah, like the paranoia that must have set in.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Even when our bodies are sick or chronically ill, I can rationalize like there is still a part of me that is trying to function as best as it can, and I can be grateful for that. But yeah, trying to also rectify the other part that's like not, where you're like, can you just function? Can you just be normal and be like everybody else? There's just so much frustration there. And I say this just as someone with chronic pain, not someone who has gone through something even more terrifying than that, be it cancer or any kind of illness diagnosis. Like, that just doesn't get brought up very often in like body positive spaces of like, be positive about your body. Yeah, well, it's trying to harm me, actually. It's like my cells are messed up.
Yeah. And the pain, the chronic pain. I mean, I have friends that unfortunately from their metastasis or the side effects from their treatments, they now have to deal with chronic pain years after treatment. And so some of my friends are like, it's exhausting to even take a shower, which like, we just, think nothing of it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so you mentioned that you were like, okay, I'm done now getting the reconstructive surgeries. It is what it is. We're going to find a way to be neutral about it, or at least okay about it. Granted, we all have our bad body image days still. So what have you started doing to maybe reconnect with that femininity or to be neutral and okay about like, this is the way it is now?
Yeah. So it took a while. Eventually, like I got into skincare and being proactive about my skin health. And from that, like the rest of my skin just started to feel so much healthier and more vibrant. And I gained so much more confidence and just from how that felt. Like eventually, like I'm not afraid to rock like a bright lipstick some days. Like if I'm really feeling like badass, like I will put on a bright red. Which right after my diagnosis, and no, even before I probably would not have because I did not have that good self-image. And then I know my angles, right? I know like, and like my daughter hates this, but I'm like, no, you have to be on this side because mom, I'm like, mom, she's got her side. So this is good. This is my side. This is working. And then for Halloween for a couple of years, like when my daughter wanted to get dressed up, I'm like, well, if I have these scars, like I kind of have an easy pass at a costume. Just like
lean into it,
dress up as like a scarecrow, and those are my stitches. So I was
I love
take
that.
like liquid liner and like line my stitches.
I love that so much.
And so I think just it's hard and it takes a while to get there, but at least having the ability to have a little fun with the scars.
Yeah.
And then thinking about them as like they're proof that I'm still alive. So even if things aren't perfect, I'm still here. And like I have gotten through all of those bad days.
I love that. I love the like the pivoting the way we think about the things that are quote unquote bad. They're not actually bad, right? There's no morality tied to these things. But
Right.
Culturally, we have decided what is and what is not good for bodies.
Right.
But when we can rebrand or like pivot or change the way we think, like, oh, this is actually kind of a badge of honor.
Right.
Or, I always tell people who tell me, oh, I don't like my wrinkles. It's like, oh, what a cool sign that you're getting older, though. What a privilege that so many people did not get to have. I have stretch marks from my kids. How cool that you grew a human being, right?
Yes.
There are just ways to change how we think about these things.
Nobody has these lips.
Well, yeah, ain't that the truth? And they are really,
These are custom
and
made.
now there's something, like you said, circling back to that, they're your talking point. They're your advocacy point. They're the reason we're talking about skin cancer right now on a podcast.
Yes.
Like, that's really cool. And I love that you're kind of, I don't know, celebrating that, or at least putting yourself out there and doing the Instagram and talking about all of this stuff because it's so important. And the more we hear it, the more it sticks in our brain. So even if you've heard, yeah, I've heard about skin cancer before. Yeah, I've heard about this. The more you hear it, the more serious you are about it. And I know that's certainly the case for me. But I grew up in the same kind of culture where, yeah, I wanted to be outside. I wanted to be tan. I remember girls in my high school, you'd put the little heart sticker on or the little Playboy bunny sticker. And you'd be like, look how tan I got. And skin cancer, not even on the radar because it won't happen to me.
Right.
It might happen to other people, but it won't happen to me. And now here you are.
And another thing too, when I was diagnosed, the doctor said, but you're so young. I was 27 when I was diagnosed. And skin cancer is thought of as old person's cancer, right? You don't get it until years and years. But there's so many people in my community on Instagram that are in their 20s, their 30s. There are some people fighting in their teens.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And those rates of diagnoses are going higher and higher, which is scary. So even though I've shared my story once, like I will keep sharing and sharing until, and all of us will, until hopefully nobody else has to go through what we've gone through, because it just, yeah.
Well, I love it. I love what you're doing. I think it's amazing. Where can people follow your story? Where can they find you to get more information?
Yeah. So Instagram is the easiest place. It's Melissa_rises. And you can always private message me. I'm pretty open. about my story.
I saw you have mental health resources on there. You've got lots of recommendations. I know you're doing a walk right now too.
Yes.
Like, how that looks amazing.
Yeah.
What's the walk about?
So I am training for a 20-mile hike on June 14th. I love hiking, but this is the first time that I'm doing 20 miles at a time. And I decided, since I'm 7 years cancer-free this year, thanks, that I wanted to dedicate my hike to the Melanoma Research Alliance, or MRA. Shout out to MRA, because they are one of the leaders in supporting melanoma research and just trying to find better outcomes for patients. And I was out in Washington, D.C. with them back in February and just had the most uplifting and educational experience. So I'm dedicating the hike to them and fundraising for them in honor of my 7 years cancer-free, because without their research, I might not be here.
That's badass. That's awesome. Yeah. So make sure you guys go follow her on Instagram so you can keep up with that journey as well.
Yeah. And each time I go for a hike, I try to document it and share my pictures. So it's been fun.
I see them and I'm like, get it, girl. You get it.
And I'm trying to do at least 7 different trails in my training. So I think I'm at 6 right now.
Oh, awesome.
So I have a couple more weeks to get a couple more, and then the big 20-miler.
That's so exciting. Okay, cool. Well, the last thing I want to ask you, and maybe we already touched on this, but what is currently your favorite form of self-care? I know you're doing a lot of skincare stuff, which has made you feel a lot better, but is there something else that you really love to do right now?
I've been really into the mental health walks. So now that I've gotten through the paranoid stage, right after diagnosis, I've found my way back to outside, and it's been very healing for me. So I love being in the woods. That is where I ground myself. I love coming here by the lake. If you've never been to Port Washington, come.
Yes, you gotta get out here.
It's the best. Just being outside, being with nature has just been so healing. And we've talked about this too, with the body image. So, some days I have my days where I don't love it. But in nature, there's so much texture and different sizes and forms. And I love just touching a tree and just feeling its texture. And I'm like, that's me. That's my stomach from having a baby.
Yes, I just did the same. Yes. I took pictures of ripples and I was like, oh, these look like my thighs.
Right.
Yeah, it's great. So, we're all connected.
Yes.
Oh, very cool. Well, okay, there's your tip, guys. Go out and get into nature, but put your sunscreen on 10 minutes before. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Melissa, for coming here. This was amazing. And we will make sure that we leave your Instagram in the description so people can find you easily. But again, I appreciate you coming all this way and sharing your story, because this is something that we really need to think about in the summer, yes, but really all year round.
Yes.
Okay. Well, wonderful. Thank you. And now it is time for our babe of the week. And I've got a historical babe for us this time. When I was doing some cancer research prep for this episode, I came across Rose Hawthorne Lathrop, who maybe you have no idea who that is. You would probably recognize her father, who was Nathaniel Hawthorne. She was also a writer and a poet, but on top of that, she was a social worker and a nurse as well. In fact, she was one of the very first oncology nurses to ever exist. And she was also an early leader for working with patients who have terminal cancer. So we're talking late 19th century. That's the end of the 1800s. She becomes a Catholic nun, and she sees that people with cancer who are poor in her community are not receiving any help. So that is where she starts to focus her attention. At the time, cancer treatment options, obviously, very limited. And on top of that, there's a huge stigma around cancer and just a lot of misunderstanding. So she's really a pioneer with working with people who have terminal cancer. In 1899, she opens up the St. Rose's Free Home for Incurable Cancer in New York City. And what's amazing is that facility stayed open until 2009. So $18.99, she opens it. It doesn't close until 2009. That helped so many people. And I think that's incredible. I mean, if that doesn't deserve Babe of the Week, I don't know what does. She devoted the rest of her life to providing care for people with cancer. And I think if we all took just a part of that understanding and a part of that empathy into the rest of our lives, we would all be better people for it. So thank you so much for listening. I'm so happy that you were here. I will leave you with a reminder that your body is a good body, even when it doesn't feel that way, even when it feels like it is actively working against you and actively trying to harm you. It is still also trying to do its best at the same time. So maybe we could try to meet our bodies with a little more gratitude and understanding, even on the days that we are very, very, very frustrated with it. At the same time, we're human beings. We're allowed to do both. We can be complicated. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk again soon. Bye.